Well, that game just sucked. It sucked a lot. It was very boring to watch, and once again, Nick Pivetta was on the mound, and it doesn't look like was anything change coming out of the All Star break. It doesn't look like there was any kind of energy, if I were to say that. And I'm more calmed down than earlier because I uploaded this video earlier, but the audio was absolute garbage, so I deleted that video, and I'm remaking this video, so doing it over again. So Philadelphia Phillies, they lose 4-0 to the Washington Nationals, and this game was just boring, and it was weird, honestly. Steven Strasburg for the Washington Nationals, he was dealing today. Even though his pitch count was getting up there a little bit early, he still managed to shut down the Phillies lineup. Even though they were hitting him around a little bit, he still managed to get out of some jams and didn't allow a run. Same with the Washington Nationals bullpen. When Steven Strasburg came out of this game, shut the door down. And Nick Pivetta, he allows 3 earned runs in this ball game, and he didn't look good. And that's the same question keep going in and night out. Is this pitching staff going to shut down the door? And right now, the only guy you can rely on is Aaron Nola. You can't right now. We can't rely on guys like Nick Pivetta, Vince Velasquez, Jake Arrieta, Zach Eflin to an extent because Zach Eflin has been more consistent this season, but lately he hasn't been that good. Jake Arrieta hasn't really been the guy we signed to that contract. He'll give you that one start of saying, oh, okay, this is the guy we signed, but then the next few starts will be, a little trash. And then he goes to the media and complains about how bad our defense was last year, and then doesn't back that up with poor starts after that. And then after the Mets series, he complains to the media that he'll dent Todd Frazier's skull, even though in that game his location was just off. He was terrible that game, and he was hitting people with changeups. He wasn't intending to hit people. If you're hitting people with changeup, you're missing location badly. So Jake Arrieta is a whole nother story. Then Nick Pivetta is just a guy who has the stuff and can't execute. That's his problem. Nick Pivetta cannot execute. Even though it shows he does have the stuff to be a really good pitcher in this league, doesn't know how to execute and doesn't have a good mentality. He just doesn't have that strive to be better. And it doesn't look like he's improving no matter what. And with Vince Velasquez, basically the same thing. He has good stuff, but the dude can't go far into ball games. Same thing with Nick Pivetta and mostly the rest of the staff except Aaron Nola. A lot of these pitchers can't go deep in the ball games. Yeah, you can maybe say Zach Eflin because he's thrown a couple complete games in there, so he can go late in the ball games when he has a good outing. But majority of this staff can't go late in the ball games, and that's what's with the misuses of the bullpen this whole entire season. But going back to this ball game, yeah, you can blame the offense for not getting anything going against the Washington Nationals and Steven Strasburg, but they did muster 7 to 8 hits on this team. The timely hits weren't there. The hits when we had runners in scoring position, they weren't there. We didn't get those hits when we needed them. We had hits tonight, like Bryce Harper, he went 2 for 4 today. Maikel Franco had himself a game as well. He went 3 for 4. We had hits and people getting on base. We had people walking. We just couldn't get that hit to score the runner to get some momentum going. And that was just basically the entire ball game. It was just the Washington Nationals got their runs early. Robles had a 2-run single in the second inning. Ryan Zimmerman had a sac fly in the third inning, but it could have been more runs, but Scott Kingery with an outstanding defensive play in center field literally dives like 5 feet to catch a ball, literally spread out in the air when he is catching the ball. It was a fantastic play, saved a couple runs right there off the board. Probably would have been a worse inning right there in the third for Nick Pivetta. But then the Washington Nationals, late in this ball game, no runs for both either side. But in the ninth inning, they get the bases loaded, and Juan Soto, he gets a sac fly to left field, and it's 4-0, and it's basically done and said from there, because the Phillies really couldn't muster up any kind of offense. And, I don't want to blame the offense, but you do have to score fewer runs, but when you're stuck with guys like Andrew Knapp in the lineup starting, and you get to that, J.T. Realmuto, before this series started, it was announced he's going to be on paternity leave because his wife had a child over the past week in the All-Star break, and I get that. But when you're stuck with Andrew Knapp, you know that's a bad thing. Andrew Knapp can hit the broadside of a barn. when he goes up there, he's just looking at strike, 3-2 count, strike right down the middle, or he's swinging for the fences every single time, and he can't make contact whatsoever. Even though he did get a single late in this ball game when it was basically pointless. It was 2 outs in the bottom of the ninth against Sean Doolittle. Hit didn't mean anything. So, yeah, Andrew Knapp at the plate. Ugh, he's the worst backup catcher in baseball. What else is there to say? And yeah, it's just really don't know what to say right now. And there was some interesting comments today from the Phillies president McPhail, and he was talking about, we already know this team is nowhere close to winning a World Series. We're not that one piece away, and he doesn't want to give up the prospects to get that one guy that would probably help us. But this fan base knows, and he knows, and the front office knows, this team is not close to winning a World Series. They're not one player close to winning one. They still need to add to this team because you know how bad the pitching staff has been besides Aaron Nola. You know how shaky and injury-riddled the bullpen has been. And also before this game, Pat Neshek on the 60-day IL because it's now the injured list instead of the disabled list. So, if Pat Neshek's a whole nother story because he's just can't pitch after he needs like 10 days of rest before he pitches another game, and then after he pitches that game, he gets injured all of a sudden. So, Pat Neshek, no thanks. And so he's on the 60-day IL. And then news also before this ball game and during the week, Jake Arrieta has a bone spur in his arm, and he's still going to pitch on Sunday because that just shows to you how terrible our prospect system is with pitching right now in the minors. And it just shows to you how bad our pitching is in general, that we have no one to call up. We have no one to take that space for Jake Arrieta to give him some rest to heal that arm. And he was also making some comments that he wants to be there. He wants to be there every fifth day to make sure this team has the best possibility to win. And he'll deal with the bone spur in the offseason. But what if he goes out there, pitches a game, and he hurts it worse, and he makes the injury worse? What if he makes that bone spur worse? What are you going to do then? You're going to pitch De Los Santos every fifth day? You're going to constantly rely on Vince Velasquez and Nick Pivetta? This pitching staff is just terrible. And it's like McPhail said, we're not that one guy away. There's still a lot to be done. There's still a lot of changes to be made. And even though he still believes, and he also said it also relies on what the guys in the clubhouse do over the next course of few weeks to determine what the Phillies are going to do at the trade deadline, because the trade deadline is at the end of the month. So it all depends on what goes on these 2 weeks. And it was like I said before the All-Star break even happened, we shouldn't overhype this series win against the New York Mets, because the New York Mets are a whole completely different story. Because they are at the near bottom of the NL East. And the Phillies, they need to prove themselves against a better team. And the Washington Nationals right now are the better team. They've been one of the hottest teams since the end of May. They've probably been one of the best teams in baseball since then. And this is a chance to prove yourselves, and you didn't do it today. The Phillies offense didn't do anything against Steven Strasburg, even though history shows that the Phillies just suck in general against Steven Strasburg. He's probably the Phillies are probably the best team he pitches against. Go figure. It seems like a lot of pitchers pitch best when they face us. The pitching hasn't been there, hasn't been clutch. The bullpen at times hasn't been there. Sometimes they will be there, but most of the time they aren't. We had J.D. Hammer on the mound today. After Nick Pivetta came out, he looked solid. But then Suarez comes in the ninth inning. He allows that sac fly to Juan Soto. It's just, I know, Nick Pivetta, I don't want to put the foot, but he didn't look good today. And it was also funny, in his last start against the Atlanta Braves, he was clocking near 95, 97 with his fastball. Today, he wasn't even hitting 93. The fastest, can't remember what was his fastest fastball. What velocity was on that fastball. Early in the game, he was only hitting around 91 to 92. That's not good. If you have this stuff and you have a good fastball, you should be able to miss bats. And Nick Pivetta isn't doing that. But one good note from this ball game, we did not allow a home run. That's something to be surprised about. That's something to be happy about. And it was funny too. I was at this ball game. Didn't get there till late. That's a whole other story because me and my buddy We didn't realize we realized we had these tickets until around an hour before game time. It was also an odd starting game time because it was a 6:05 start because they had a fireworks show after the ball game, so that was nice. I sat in the Diamond Club right behind home plate. Nice view. Sucked that the Phillies didn't do anything good because the game was entirely boring. But what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Move on to the next day and just take it from there. So you got Aaron Nola on the mound against Patrick Corbin. And then Jake Arrieta with that bone spur. He's on Sunday, so that's going to be fun. But we have our ace tomorrow on the mound against Corbin. And we'll see what the Phillies can do tomorrow because they still have to prove themselves in this series to me. Because right now, just taking it day by day right now. I'm not trying to be too pissed with this team, but they're getting me there a little bit. I was pissed off a little bit earlier, but now I'm more calmed down and just looking at this game just as a viewer of a fan of the Phillies and trying not to get too mad about it. So, what are your guys' thoughts on this Phillies game? What are your thoughts on the Phillies going into tomorrow with Nola on the mound? What did you think of the offense today? What did you think about Pivetta? So, don't forget to leave a comment. Don't forget to drop a like. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, boys, and I will see you in the next video.